Hello, damsels. I'm live. It worked. All right. Okay. It's exciting. Um, I think I'm in the right place. I think I'm in the event and not on Tessa's main page. I also hope I'm not on my um, my personal profile because everyone's going to be real confused if that's the case. Um, so hopefully you guys can hear me. And if you can, chime in and let me know so that I know the audio is coming through. Um, I'm here to talk about The Devil of Downtown and whatever else you guys want to talk about. But this is the book that came out today. It's the third book in the Uptown Girls series. It is about the criminal kingpin of New York City and an uptown do-gooder. And they were in all the other previous Uptown Girls books. They both play an important part. So I always knew that they were going to end up together. I just didn't know how it was going to happen because I don't ever really outline anything ahead of time. I just sort of sit down. I know mostly the beats where the story needs to go. But I hadn't really worked out how these two were going to come together in the end. Um, so, just so you guys know, if there are comments, I have not seen any. So, that's just an FYI that if there are comments or questions, I cannot see them. I don't know why, but I can't. Um, okay, so I don't know what that means for like questions and whatnot. I could maybe open up another Facebook window and try to like figure it out. But it looks to me like there are no comments. It's just asking me to write a comment. And I don't need to talk to myself any more than I already do. So maybe I'll just do that really quickly if you guys don't mind. I'll just open up another Facebook window so I can make sure I'm not missing comments because that would be a bummer. And that's what the joy of having two computer monitors right here. I have my laptop right here, and then I have a giant monitor over here. And the giant monitor is actually the one I write on. I guess because my eyes are getting older, question mark. So, all right, let's see what's happening with comments. I'm just going to have both windows open. See, I see comments over here, but not here. God, Facebook, man. Lame. Okay, Lisa Marie says we're here. Yay. Catherine said, I just started book 2. Can't wait for book 3. Yay. And Joanna, I assume it's Joanna, says hello, Joanna. Hello. You guys, I went to a softball tournament in Pennsylvania this past weekend. And there's this amazing string of like gas station convenience stores in Pennsylvania called Sheetz. And they sell these little tiny plastic containers of wine. This is Moscato, but they had Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, Merlot in these little plastic. I mean, I know it's terrible for the environment. I will recycle it, but little plastic containers that you can just buy. And like, these are the perfect size. Like, why does not every gas station carry these? I feel like I want to move to Pennsylvania just so like I can be near Sheetz and buy these whenever I want. It's got a little seal on it. I mean, it's genius, life changing. Okay, so I'm gonna enjoy my Moscato. We're gonna chat. You guys are gonna ask me questions. Hello, Linda. She said that's so cool. Okay. So feel free to ask me questions. I should be able to see them over here as they come up, hopefully. And I will answer them back and forth. So I hope everybody else has some wine now that it's 8 o'clock and after dinner time. I mean, so good. Gas station wine. I'm sold. Catherine says she's seen those before at stores. They look like fun. They are fun. I can highly recommend. They got us through the softball tournament this weekend, and everyone was wearing masks at the tournament. Inside. We were mostly outside, and they had all the parents and players socially distanced. But yeah, I mean, softball's back up and running. And listen, you guys get release day hair, which is like, it just is. I've had no time for hair today, so it's a little much, but we will persevere. All right. So, Linda says she has her iced coffee Blue Moon. Wait a minute. Blue Moon is beer. Iced coffee? Blue Moon? Beer? Iced coffee? Linda, I need more. You gotta fill me in on that because I don't know what that means, but I'm intrigued because I like Blue Moon and I also like iced coffee. Is it together? Lisa Marie says she loves the cover. It's all pink. How did I plan the color of the cover? Excellent question. So let's get the other two beauties in the series. So Rogue of Fifth Avenue was the first, and they did that in blue. All of these covers were done by John Paul Ferrara, who is a very well-known designer and artist who does a lot of romance covers. He did my very first Regency series, Wicked Deceptions, which, just to like throw back, this was the first book in the series, Courtesan Duchess. He did this whole series. So I was really excited when Avon hired him to do the Uptown Girls series. So this is the Rogue of Fifth Avenue, which they did in blue. Then we went to the Prince of Broadway, which is like this pinky purple. And they asked me for the third book, what I wanted. And I think, we just we kind of settled on something that was a little different. I mean, the next book in my new series is yellow. So I don't know. I don't know how we settled on pink. I think it was really John Paul mostly, I think, decided on pink. And I like it. I mean, as long as it sort of looks different enough from Prince of Broadway, I was totally happy with it. I love the New York in the background. He did that in all the covers. And what happened is Linda says, fuck yeah, Florence. Yeah. Linda, I think you ordered your books from Words in Maplewood because I signed them all yesterday and I'm pretty sure yours were in that stack. No? Yes, it's Words with an S in Maplewood. And if anybody wants to order books from me, any of my backlist or front list, if you want to order them from Words in Maplewood, they will contact me and I will come by and personalize it and sign it for you. They're right around the corner from me. So the cover process, they did a photo shoot for all of these covers, and they send me here's some models to choose from, so I get to pick the models, which is always fun. And then we talk about covers that we like that, we could possibly model the pose on. I don't know how they settled how this pose came about, but as soon as I saw it, I think I sent it to Sophie Jordan and Sarah McLean, and I said, I sent them 3 photographs, and I said, which clinch do you guys like the best? And they were like, oh my God, look at his hands, definitely this one. So because we settled on this for the first book, I felt like the other 2 should have a similar pose, that it should be the guy behind the girl and she's really up front in the pretty dress. So that's how we settled on the look of the series. The next book that I'm working on that comes out next spring, they were not able to do a photo shoot for because we're in the middle of a pandemic, don't you know? Which I totally get. And so John Paul used, I think, an image he kind of had on hand, but it totally works for the series. And it's basically The Bachelor set in Newport is the story. and it's like all beachy and like water and the big house in the background. So it's great. I really love the next cover. So that's coming soon. Okay, so now, oh, are these comments like getting lost? How do I load all the comments? God, you guys, Facebook is like, get your shit together, man. All right, so Elizabeth Beth, hello. The originator, the OG of Fuck Yeah Florence. She said the best covers for real. Thank you. Caitlin says, has been the best part about writing the Uptown Girls series, and what am I currently reading? Both good questions. Currently reading, I just finished LaQuette's Lies You Tell. I have to go to, the memory is like the first thing to go, you guys, just so you know. And so LaQuette's Lies You Tell, I just finished. It is a mobster hero, secret baby, very good. Lies You Tell. I really loved it. I just finished Jody Slaughter's All Things Burn, which was amazing. That was really good. It is a hitman hero and a woman who's being stalked, and she hires the hitman to kill her stalker. So content warning stalking, but that is really amazing. I'm in the middle of a bunch of books like You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria, which comes out in like a month. Adriana Herrera's new release, Finding Joy. Oh gosh, you guys. I just reread Not Quite a Husband by Sherry Thomas. I don't know why, but like that book was like, I don't know, it just I think I opened it one day and then just got caught up, and I was like, oh. Queen Move by Kennedy Ryan was really good. I know everyone's kind of read that. That was really good. So those are some, and of course, Staring in the Duke, I've read twice. It's amazing. I don't often read a lot of historical because I'm always writing historicals, and I don't like to have that in my brain when I'm drafting a novel. So it kind of depends on where I am in the writing process of whether I read historicals or not. So right now I'm actually drafting a short story that's going to come out at the end of this year. That's part of an anthology that I'm doing with Sierra Simone, Adriana Herrera, Nicola Davidson, Eva Lee, and myself. That's coming out at the end of this year. So I'm finishing like drafting that. So once I finish drafting, then I'll like dip my toe back into the historical water because I want to read. Valerie Bowman has a new book out. Vanessa Riley's new book that came out today. I really want to read that. I've read Eliza Knight's The Rebel Wears Plaid, and it's really good. If you like Scottish historicals, it's really, really good. Let's see. What other historicals have I got in the back burner that I'm like dying to get into? I don't know. I'm sure you guys have tons of recommendations too. So feel free to throw those in the comments, and I will, when I go through after we're done, I'll go through the comments and I'll answer. Lisa Marie asked how many books are in my new series. It's going to be 4. So it's called the Fifth Avenue Rebels. And all of the, it features like a group of friends who are all outcasts from their very wealthy society families for various reasons. And they become friends at college. And the first one, like I said, is basically The Bachelor in Newport. Beth says Connie Britton's new one is great. Okay, good to know. I've seen that everywhere today, so that's good. So which book was my favorite? I think my hair is like everywhere, you guys. And just so you know, if you've seen me on other live videos recently, I have to turn the AC in my office off so that you guys don't hear it. And it gets really hot in here because it's like a little oven, a little cave. So I'm probably going to start sweating and like glowing. So just ignore it. Okay. Christina Britton. Beth, I think is what you meant. You said Connie. It's Christina? I think it's Christina Britton. Anyway, what book is my favorite? That's really hard to say. I can tell you that the first book in a series is always harder for me to write. So Rogue was the hardest for me to write because I'm like trying to create, even though Frank Tripp was in other books, he's in the 400 series that came out from Avon right before this series. So he was a character I knew, but I didn't know anybody else, and I hadn't like set up the world. So for me, the first book in a series is always hardest to write. And by the time we got to this, like I knew who they were. I mean, I just had such a strong sense of Justine and Jack's characters because they had been with me for the other two books that like I knew them. There was no like I don't think there's anything I cut from this book. Like this book, you know, there's a lot of stuff like I drafted and then I had to go back and cut because it just wasn't right. But like this book, like, you know, it took me a while to figure out how they were going to end up together. But like once I figured out like that piece of it, it was easy to write because I knew who they were. So that was and I have to say, my editor said this is the shortest edit letter she's ever written in her career. I mean, she was like, you know, you know, for me, like she was like, you'll never get a shorter edit letter than this one. So like, I'm not saying it's the best book she's ever read because that would be crazy, but she, you know, she said this is the shortest edit letter you will ever get from me. Like this is I have no changes, basically, is what it read, which was amazing, and she really loved it. So the book that worried me the most was this one. A lot of you may have heard the catchphrase "fuck yeah, Florence," like out on Twitter or Facebook. Thank you, Beth Gabriel, for that. This book worried me because first of all, it was dirtier than you know, it's very explicit and kind of dirty and which I think is fine. I mean, I have no problem with it. But I was worried that readers would have a problem with it, that readers would just say, "Oh my God, like this is too much." I also was worried that readers wouldn't like Florence. And some readers haven't. I mean, it seems like some readers either love her or hate her. But I can tell you she is based on a real person that I know who I happen to be related to. So I sort of get her. I mean, Florence is like wants attention, right? She's all about like, look at me, because she's insecure and feels like she never fits into her family. So I don't know. I get her, and I I love her. So this book worried me. This book was the hardest. And this book seemed to be the easiest. I don't know. Does that help? Um, I don't know why. Like, I can only get the comments that show up. Let's try this. What happens if I do that? Facebook is so weird, you guys. And I don't know if anybody else does live videos, but they have done this live video editor, and I'm not sure it has made it any easier. But I don't know why I can't get to all the comments. I could see like 4 comments at a time. It's so stupid. Click to expand. What if, yeah, cool. We get to hear me again. Things are happening. I feel like if this loads, it might work. No? Oh my God. Yes, it worked. Yes, genius. I'm a genius. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to questions that I may have missed. Linda said old eyes are so fun, aren't they? I never needed glasses until about like 2 years ago. And yeah, perimenopause is like awesome. That was a joke. It's not awesome. Okay, so Do 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 do. Um, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling slowly. Catherine asked, "What made you decide to write during the Gilded Age? This is the time frame I never knew I wanted, and I love it. I taught U.S. history." Whoa, where'd that go? I taught U.S. history. Oh my God, Facebook. All right. And this was such an interesting time to teach. So that is why I love the Gilded Age, because it's so interesting as far as everything that's happening. Basically, America as we know it today forms in the Gilded Age. You've got all the technological advances. You've got, the political parties kind of start to take shape. Um, you've got the formation of cities. We get away from like the farm life. We get women gaining more independence. We get all the immigration from Europe. It is a fascinating time in American history, and it's really just an explosion of money. You get all that wealth concentrated at the top, which is um, a whole other problem. But there's so much conflict and so much turmoil and so much happening in the Gilded Age. I absolutely love it. It's fascinating for me, and I'm always researching and always learning new things. I've said this before, but I did not grow up reading Jane Austen. I grew up reading Edith Wharton. So I didn't read Austen until I was in my 30s, and I was kind of like, okay, I get it. And I realized that is complete. That's, as far as historical romance goes, it's like blasphemy. But I read Edith Wharton. I mean, I really, I loved Old New York. My great great grandparents came through Ellis Island from Italy. So I feel like I have a connection just to like that time period and the city. And I lived in Chicago for a long time, which was a great Gilded Age city. And then I lived in New York for a number of years. So I don't know. That to me, I just love it. Um, I thought it would be fun to show. I thought it would be fun to show some of the research books that I used for the series. I'm just checking questions. So, what's been the best part about writing the Uptown Girls series? Um, the best part about writing the series is like seeing what the readers think. I mean, it's kind of the best and the worst because you kind of like dread it because you hope people like it, like, and receive it how you sort of intended it. But once you write something, once you create something and you put it out in the world, you have no control over how people perceive it or receive it or absorb it, whatever. But this in particular has been a fun series because I love sort of a bad hero, like a criminal hero, a hero that's on the wrong side of the tracks. You know what I'm saying? So to play with that in this series was really fun, and I was hoping that readers would like it because we're sort of conditioned for the dukes and the earls and the really fancy kind of heroes. So it was fun to really write like downtown guys. Um, okay, let's see. Uh, Will any characters from the Uptown Girls series be in the next series? That is an excellent question. And I did not put them into the first book. So I'm not saying no. It would be really fun to revisit some of these characters in another series. I actually wrote a scene with one of the 400 characters in the next book, but then I cut it because I felt like I just did it just purely for fun for me. Like, oh, I really want to see this character again. And it was kind of a vanity thing. And I was like, you know what? The story's too long. This scene is not necessary. I'm pulling it out. So I'll probably, someday I'll post that as like an extra somewhere. But so I don't know whether we're going to see any Uptown Girls. But the nice thing is, like, I've created the world. If we ever need a casino to go to, Florence owns one. If we ever need like a legal aid society, Mamie and Frank own one. So I don't know. Um, let's see. Gilded Age is one of my favorites. Lisa Marie, thank you. You should totally write a Pride and Prejudice Gilded Age set of books. I'm not against it. That's not a bad idea. You do a great job. Catherine says you do a great job. The history nerd in me loves all the details. Thank you. So I'm going to show you my research books in a second. Oh, what was the inspiration for the criminal Jack? Joanna wants to know. So that's a good question. So Jack Mulligan is actually based on a real person. His name was Paul Kelly. And Paul Kelly is, he dressed to the nines. He was a boxer and then turned, gang leader. And he organized all of the smaller gangs sort of in lower New York into one big criminal enterprise. Does that sound familiar? So it's really like the formation of the American Mafia. And some guys that were in his crew were like Lucky Luciano and Al Capone and Meyer Lansky, I think. So Paul Kelly is really like the guy who starts, kind of the mafia as we would come to know it from the Godfather movies. He dressed to the nines. He was Italian in his background, but I don't think he came over from Italy. I think his parents came over from Italy, but he dressed to the nines. He got manicures. He spoke many languages. The society people would come from uptown, downtown to his athletic club, which was, boxing and like a saloon, basically. They would come downtown and he would, go out into the crowd and entertain them. And so he's a fascinating historical character, and that's who I based Jack Mulligan on. Jack's rival in the book, in The Devil of Downtown, is based on Kelly's real-life rival, Monk Eastman, who you may have heard of. So, of course he had to have a rival. So anyway, I'm always looking for real people to draw inspiration from my books. I read a lot of books about old New York. So I'll tell you specifically for The Devil of Downtown and The Uptown Girls, the books that I used a lot for research. The first is called Incredible New York by Lloyd Morris. And it says High Life and Low Life from 1850 to 1950. So this has got a lot of really cool, like sporting and gambling and kind of information that I couldn't find anywhere else. So this was really interesting, and I haven't finished reading. I mean, you can see I'm not quite done with it, but this was full of lots of really interesting tidbits. The next one is called Low Life by Luc Sante. This is like the gold standard when you're talking about old New York and the Gilded Age and trying to understand what it was like to live, south of 34th Street. I can't even, I have so many things underlined in this book. I can't even tell you. Like, I just go through and I just mark and underline and circle, and it's a really fascinating read. So that's Low Life. And the byline of the book is Lures and Snares of Old New York. I love that. And then Gangs of New York by Herbert Asbury. This is about the underworld of, really like 1840, 1850 through the turn of the century. And it is also just chocked full of amazing info about New York and what it was like, to this picture on the front is called Bandit's Roost. and that was an area down off Mulberry Bend, down in the Bowery and Five Points. It's fascinating. So if you like history, you like reading about criminals, there you go. Those are the books that I kind of always, when I'm writing something with a criminal or downtown, that's what I read. Um, Beth asks, I love your Gilded Age house photos you post, but which one is your favorite? I assume she means the ones on Instagram. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm Joanna Shoup. I post a lot of old American, like Gilded Age mansions and houses. And I mean, they're all those old Victorians and stuff. They're all over my Instagram, and lots of old historical photos and stuff. I can tell you, I don't know that I can say which one is my favorite. For the next book that's coming out, which is The Heiress Hunt, which takes place in Newport, I did a lot of researching into the Breakers, which is a fascinating house out in Newport. And I have not seen it in person. I know everybody's going to say, oh my God, you haven't been to Newport? I have not been to Newport. It's on the list. I was going to go this summer, but we're in a pandemic. So that's like on the list to do. But the Breakers is fascinating. The house in Carolina, the Biltmore, is fascinating. I mean, when you start like reading like Hearst Castle is fascinating. When you start reading about like the architecture and like how they, like what's in the house. And I was just reading the other day, and I cannot remember where the house is, but it was a Gilded Age heiress. Her dad was somebody famous, and they built her a house, and she said, I want to put in a Turkish bath. And they said, no problem. Here's where we will excavate into the ground to build you your Turkish bath. And she said, oh, no. I don't want it underground. I want it on the third floor. And they were like, what? But of course, they found a way to do it because, in that day and age, money was everything. So she had a Turkish bath on the third floor. And I really wish I could figure out where, I could remember where that was. But like I said, the memory is the first thing to go. So that was fascinating. I love reading about, those little tidbits about, like it was Vanderbilt that built like his own private railway station underneath his house that ran to Grand Central. I mean, there's so many like cool, the Winchester House out in California, which is, bizarre, wonderfully bizarre. Someday I want to see that in person. They were doing virtual tours of it, by the way. There's a lot of really cool virtual tours that are happening right now because of the pandemic. The Winchester House was doing a virtual tour. If you like Edith Wharton, the Bowery Boys are doing an Edith Wharton walking tour, and I think it's tomorrow, a virtual walking tour. It's like $20. New York Adventure Club has a ton of like virtual talks, and I just watched one about like Gilded Age mansions. Then I watched one about the Bowery. I watched one about Five Points. So New York Adventure Club has a bunch of really fun ones. Sharon says the Winchester House is both fascinating and creepy. That is what I have heard. So I really, I can't wait to see that in person one of these days. Let's see, what else? There are all kinds of links in the comments for like other books and recommendations and stuff. So, what else can I tell you about the Uptown Girls series? Any other questions? I feel like I've just been like... Justine, by the way, somebody asked what the inspiration for Jack was. Justine, there were many sort of do-gooder society ladies in the Gilded Age. You have to remember that there was no social services. There are no, there's nothing but like missions and legal aid societies and settlement houses. All of that starts in the Gilded Age because there's no social safety net for the, the bottom rung of society. And all these immigrants came over and there was just no help for them at all. Um, Jane Addams starts Hull House in the Gilded Age. So that for me was kind of like, she is Justine's idol. Jack actually takes her to, spoiler alert, they end up in the end together, but actually takes her to Chicago to meet Jane Addams. You don't see that on the page, but so that's kind of like, her hero. But there were a lot of do-gooder heroines especially in the 1890s, because in 1890, Jacob Riis, who was a journalist, publishes a book called How the Other Half Lives. I actually have it over here somewhere. Right here. So it's called How the Other Half Lives. And you can see here, he's got some boys that live on the street here on the cover. This book, when he published his photographs and his articles, New York society, I mean, it just shocked them. They had no idea, anybody who was living like above 42nd Street really had no idea what was going on downtown. And they were so horrified by the conditions of the tenements and Five Points. I mean, this is really why Five Points gets torn down, is this book, because they finally start paying attention to where people are living, what the safety conditions are, drinking water and outdoor space and crime. I mean, this book is really, kind of why Justine does what she does, because this would have so horrified anybody, I mean, but I say anybody, but would really shocked a lot of people. And this is why we see a lot of those social movements come into play in the 1890s, because people really wanted to help the people in Lower Manhattan. Catherine says, yes, she has used pictures from that book. Yes. I mean, you can find these online. If you Google, How the Other Half Lives or Jacob Riis, there are a lot of, very fascinating photos, very sad photos, people just crammed into just the tiniest of spaces, and, children working and children living on the street. And you can understand why, if you had been blind to what was going on in the lower half of the city, why you would have been so horrified by it. Sharon asks, any interesting stories you learned about casinos of the time? Well, casinos. This is the casino book, The Prince of Broadway. So gambling is illegal in the Gilded Age. You are not allowed to run a casino, but it's certainly much easier to run a casino north of, 34th Street, because presumably, you're catering to a wealthier crowd, and you have the money to pay off the police. That was sort of how they got by. They would have paid, off the both Tammany Hall and the police. So I guess I didn't really, when I started writing the book, like, I didn't realize, how illicit gambling was. We think of like, that would just be like nothing today. Like, oh, he runs a card game, big deal. But like back in these days, all of that was very illicit. Women were not allowed in any of the casinos, which surprises probably none of you. So I'm trying to think of like, I can't remember like any really interesting stories per se, but just like, I think the fact of like the casino in this book is based on a real casino. It's called The House with the Bronze Door. No, the house with the, oh my God, you guys. So this is the Bronze House, and the real casino is the house with the bronze door, I think. And it was owned by the guy who ends up starting the New York Yankees, Frank Farrell. So that to me was fascinating. I mean, just the intersection in old New York of like the criminals, the politicians, the, you know, it's just fast. And, you know, the businessmen. So like criminals, politicians, businessmen, all of a sudden you've got the New York Yankees because he used his casino winnings to buy the team from Baltimore that they would eventually rename to the Yankees. Fascinating. So yeah, I mean, that was like kind of a cool thing, but it was called the House of the Bronze Door because it literally had a bronze door that they had bought from somewhere over in Europe. And, you know, and that was why everybody called it that. So I'm sure there are other things. And as soon as I stop this video, I'll go, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't tell that story. But, yeah, that's all I can think about for gambling, but it would have been wild. All right. I think that's probably enough, right? Like, you guys are probably tired of hearing me blather on. So, I will post another time in the group just to say goodbye and thanks for having me. But you can always find me online, my website, joannashoop.com. I'm like on Facebook, Joanna Shoop Author. I'm on Twitter, Joanna Shoop, Instagram, Joanna Shoop, BookBub. You got it. Okay, so the Yankees connection is very cool, Sharon says. I know, it's fascinating. Like I said, I mean, there are no like good guys and bad guys in the Gilded Age. It's just like this all very weird mix of gray because everybody's just kind of like both. And you know, money is like all that matters in those days. So, all right. Thank you guys for chatting. Thanks for letting me hang out today. I had a lot of fun. And thanks to Kelly and Tessa for letting me come in and crash and blather about the Gilded Age. I had a lot of fun. And I'll like say goodbye in the group and just post some links and some fun things. And I hope you guys come find me online. And if you try the book, let me know what you think of Justine and Jack. And thank you to everybody who's already read it. And please leave a review, good, bad, or indifferent. That would be awesome. And that's it. It was so fun to meet so many of you and see others again that I know. So it's always fun. And that's it. All right. Have a good night, you guys. Thank you.